How many people did Jesus raise from the dead? In this gospel, Mark chapter 5, Jesus has an encounter with a man named Jairus, who is a synagogue official. He wasn't a rabbi, he was just a synagogue official. He worked in the synagogue as a leader. And it says that Jairus, the synagogue official, comes up before Jesus, and it says that he falls at his feet, and probably that means he kneels down. Seeing Jesus, he fell at his feet and pleaded earnestly with him. You can picture that. Jesus, the rabbi, and a man kneeling on the ground looking up at him. And he makes this plea. My daughter is at the point of death. Please come and lay your hands on her that she may get well. So he has a little girl. She's 12 years old. Her name is not given. And she's on her deathbed. Doesn't have long to live. And the last resort for Jairus, the synagogue official, is to come to Jesus. I think many times we are like that as well. And Jesus goes with Jairus. He agrees to go with him, to go to the house of the synagogue official and to put his hand on the little girl. On the way there, they meet a group of people who come from the synagogue official's house. So they meet people coming from the house, and this group of people, they say, your daughter has died. Why trouble the teacher any longer? So it's no longer any reason to go to the house because the girl has just died. She's on her deathbed. No reason to go. And Jesus said to the synagogue official, and amigos, he says the same to you. Christ said to the synagogue official, and he says the same to you. Do not be afraid. Just have faith. Do not be afraid. Just have faith. And when Jesus gets to the house of the synagogue official, there is a terrible commotion. You know what they would do 2,000 years ago when somebody would die? They would pay mourners. They would pay people to come and to rip their clothes and mess their hair up and to scream and to cry. And they would have these mournful instruments that they would play. They were paid mourners. And that's what Jesus means when he gets there. He caught sight of a commotion, people weeping and wailing loudly. And Jesus goes into the room where the little girl has died, and he says, why this commotion and weeping? This little girl, she's not dead, she's asleep. And these people, these paid mourners, they would have known death. They would have been experts in death. They would have known death. They knew the girl was dead. And they ridiculed Jesus. They made fun of him. And Jesus puts them all out. And then he put them all out. And he takes into the room where the girl is 5 people. He takes the mother and the father and 3 apostles. Not all 12, only 3. He takes Peter and 2 brothers, James and John. He takes Peter, James, and John, and the mother and the father, 5 people. And he goes into the room where the little girl is. She's still on her deathbed. She's just been dead, minutes, maybe an hour. She just died. And it says Jesus took the child by the hand. And he says to the girl who's dead, he's speaking to a dead person. And he says to the little girl, Talitha koum, which means little girl, I say to you, arise. And the girl, a child of 12, she sits up. And she starts to walk around. I've often pictured myself in that room. What would have been your reaction to that? The little girl sits up, gets out of bed, and starts to walk around. And immediately a child of 12, she walked around, and everybody was utterly astounded, and so would you be. And then Jesus gives a most unusual command. He says this, Jesus gave strict orders that no one should know this. And he said that the girl should be given something to eat. It must make you hungry to die. He said that she should be given something to eat. May I ask you a question? How many times did the girl die? She died twice. The girl died twice. She died once when she was 12. and Jesus brought her back to life, and then she died at the end of her life. We don't know how old she was, but she died twice. She died twice. There's a difference between the two deaths. When she was brought back to life by Jesus when she was 12, she got the same body back as she had before. She didn't get a new glorified body. She got the same body back that she died with. How many people did Jesus raise from the dead? The first one he raised was this girl today. She had just been dead minutes, maybe an hour. She was still in her deathbed. The next person that Jesus raises from the dead is called the widow's son, the widow's son at Nain. The widow's son at Nain, the only son of a widowed mother. And what happens in that particular case is the boy had died, and they're carrying him on a stretcher on the way to the cemetery. And Jesus stops the funeral procession. He stops the funeral procession. And he talks to the young man. He talks to the dead person. And he says, "Young man, I say to you, arise." And up he comes. How long was he dead? You see, the Orthodox Jews, to this day, the Orthodox Jews do not embalm bodies. It has to do with their belief regarding life being in the blood. They do not embalm bodies to this very day. If you ever see any of those horrible tragedies, like of a terrorist attack in the Middle East, the Jewish people who are killed, they are buried within a day. Within a day. They do not embalm bodies. And so you have here this widow's son, and he's dead how long? Hours, less than a day. Less than a day. Do you see what's happening? First, Jesus raises the little girl, and she's dead minutes. Next, he raises the widow's son at Nain, and he's dead a few hours. And who's the last person he raises? Lazarus. How long is that dude dead? 4 days. The little girl's dead minutes. You have the widow's son at Nain, dead hours. You have Lazarus, and he's dead 4 days. 4 days. Jesus is demonstrating in an escalating way his power over death. First, he raises a girl, dead minutes. Skeptics could say what? Well, she was asleep. She really wasn't dead. Next, he raises this young man, probably a teenage boy, who was dead a few hours, the widow's son at Nain, and people could say what? Well, he was comatose, or he was catatonic, or one of those kind of words. And then Lazarus dead 4 days in an airtight tomb. What could people have said about that one? Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. As a matter of fact, that was the miracle that sealed his death, that sealed the death of Jesus, because people couldn't refute that one. As a matter of fact, if you read the Gospels, it will say they tried to kill Lazarus too, because Lazarus was a walking proof that Jesus was divine. Every miracle was like that. How many people did Jesus raise from the dead? 4. We forgot one. What would be the ultimate proof that he was God? And it would be to raise his own dead body, for his divine nature to summon back to life. His divine nature to summon back to life his human nature. Raise 4. And in this order that I just laid out for you. But it is important to realize that he's demonstrating, as I said before, his power over death. First, he raises the girl, dead minutes. Then the widow's son at Nain, dead hours. Then Lazarus, dead 4 days. And then his own dead body. He has power over death. All of the miracles of Jesus Christ were proof of his divinity. Every single one. One is he has power over death. He would do exorcisms, which means he has power over the devil. He would cure people who were sick. They had blind eyes, or they would be paralyzed, or they would be lame. So he demonstrates his power over sickness. And also he demonstrated his power over nature. You know, he would walk on water. How can you do that? He would take 5 loaves and 2 fish and feed 5,000 people. I mean, how can you say you're in a boat and there's a terrible storm, and he stands up and he says what? Calm, be still. And even nature obeys him. But he demonstrates his power over all created things. You must understand that. He demonstrates his power over all created things because he's the creator of the things. And he has power over them, and that's what he's demonstrating. The girl who was 12, she died twice. The widow's son at Nain, he died twice. Lazarus, he died twice. How many times did Jesus die? Only once. And at the end of his life, when he died and his body went in the tomb, the body which emerged on Easter was glorified. And you see, that's the difference between, like Lazarus dead 4 days, and he comes out of the tomb, but he gets the same body back. That was not the case with Christ. Christ dies, and he emerges from the tomb of his own power, but his body is glorified. His body is glorified. One day, at the end of the world, whenever that happens to be, our bodies will be in the grave, but they will come out. They will come out, and they will be reunited with your soul, wherever your soul happens to be. I'm sure that your souls will be in heaven, but your body will be glorified. Your body will be glorified and reunited with your soul in heaven, where you will experience for eternity, with your body and with your soul, the bliss and the joy of being in the presence of God forever, forever. It is important to realize that these three people that Jesus raised from the dead beside himself, that when he brought them back to life, their bodies were not glorified. They got the same body back that they had before. They all got old, they all got sick, and they all died. So they did not have a glorified body, as was Jesus Christ. Maybe the way to finish this short sermon might be something like this. These are the words that Jesus said to the synagogue official, and he says the same to all of you. Do not be afraid, just have faith. Amen.